Tractate Eruvin, General Introduction, Part 1. The four domains. The rules of transferring involve four domains. 1. Reshus Hayachid, private domain. 2. Reshus Harabim, public domain. 3. Carmelis, an area intermediate between public and private domains. And 4. Mekom Patur, exempt area. A Reshus Hayachid, private domain, is an area enclosed by partitions at least 10 tefachim high. This area must be at least 4 tefachim wide and 4 tefachim long. According to most opinions, it needs to be enclosed only on 3 sides to qualify as a Reshus Hayachid by biblical law. Although Reshus Hayachid literally means private domain, private ownership is not necessary. The idea behind this name is that the area is enclosed and not designated for public use. B. Reshus Harabim. A Reshus Harabim, public domain, is a commonly used street or other public area. It must be at least 16 amos wide and open at both ends, according to some. It must be used by at least 600,000 people, the counted population of the Jewish encampment during their travels in the desert, to qualify as a public domain. C. Carmelis. A carmelis is an area that is neither a public domain because it lacks one of the necessary conditions, for example, it is not set aside for public use, or it is less than 16 amos wide, nor a private domain because it does not have the required partitions. Examples of a carmelis are an open field, an empty lot, or an elevated area, such as a pillar or tree stump in a public domain that rises between 3 and 10 tefachim above the ground. The area must also be at least 4 tefachim wide and 4 tefachim long to qualify as carmelis. If it is smaller, it is a Mekom Patur. And D. Mekom Patur. A Mekom Patur, exempt area, is also an area that is neither a public domain nor a private domain, but it is smaller than a carmelis, meaning that it is less than 4 tefachim long or wide. Another case of a Mekom Patur is the airspace that is above a public domain or a carmelis. A public domain and carmelis extend only 10 tefachim upward. The airspace above that is a Mekom Patur. According to biblical law, Midoraita, the prohibition against transferring objects on Shabbos applies only to transfers between a private domain and a public domain, and to moving objects 4 amos in a public domain. Because a carmelis resembles both a public domain in that it is not enclosed, and a private domain in that it is not set aside for the public, the sages decreed that it be treated with the restrictions of both domains. Therefore, as it is the case with a public domain, one may not carry an object 4 amos in a carmelis or carry between it and a private domain. And, as is the case with a private domain, one may not carry between a carmelis and a public domain. Carrying from any domain into a Mekom Patur, or vice versa, is usually completely permitted, even under rabbinic law.